The 1960 Paralympics changed sporting history forever, for not only those with disabilities, but also those without them. Through changing people's point of views on disabilities,
giving people with disabilities more rights and opportunities,
and expanding the awareness of disabilities. As the Holocaust began, Jews weren't the only group of people being harshly treated. Also, people with disabilities were.
Hitler believed that people with disabilities were worthless and useless.
They suffered the torture from the Nazis for a total of 8 years before Adolf Hitler put an end to the harm in 1941 due to too many protests. But that wasn't all the torture and cruelty they suffered.
Before the Paralympics, people with disabilities were looked down upon.
They had barely any rights. They couldn't even express their own beliefs.
They were burned, tortured, and killed at one point in time.
Sir Ludwig Guttmann was known as one of the best German neurologists of his time.
He lived in Germany at the time of the Holocaust and was a Jew.
This resulted in him losing his job at a great hospital, and he was forced to move to a rundown all-Jew hospital because he was not allowed to work on any non-Jew patients.
His skills were being wasted by the government.
The Nazis would come do mandatory checks in the hospitals, and Ludwig hid non-injured Jew patients in his hospital, potentially saving many lives. Once the Holocaust was over, Ludwig did many studies on paralysis.
Through his search, he was able to come to a conclusion that exercise is impactful for those with paralysis.
After that, he would start taking his patients to go outside and play games to keep them healthy and entertained.
But soon after, the outside trips became known as the Stoke Medieval Games.
The games were named after a hospital in Germany and had 16 injured British war veterans competing, 14 of whom were men and 2 were women. Over 200 people were in attendance,
which is a pretty big number for those times. The 1960 Games are a huge stepping stone for the future of the Paralympics.
The Games were held in Rome instead of Germany.
Over 400 athletes from 23 countries participated in the Games.
Over 16,000 people were in attendance. The name of the games were no longer Stoke Medieval Games because it was changed to the Wheelchair Olympics since it was only open to people in wheelchairs.
In 1976, the Paralympics welcomed all disabilities. Athletes were classified into groups by severity of their impairment.
Besides just the disability welcoming in 1976, the Wheelchair Olympics name was changed to the Paralympics. Para, which means alongside, and Olympics after its founding father. The name is also a combo of paraplegic, a person affected by paralysis of the lower body. Trisha Zorn is a blind swimmer who was born with aniridia. She has 2 artificial iris implants that improved her vision to 2015.
While competing, she set a whopping total of 8 world records in her category of disabilities. She even attended every Paralympics game from 1980 to 2004.
By 2012, she was inducted into the Paralympic Hall of Fame. She won a total of 55 medals, 41 gold, 9 silver, and 5 bronze. She was challenged at every surgery she had. She had to spend up to 6 weeks out of water, so she received little practice time. Although she was faced with trouble, she is now known as one of the most successful Paralympic athletes ever.
She might even be most successful athlete of all times because she has won more medals than Michael Phelps.
She made the world realize that no matter the problems you face, you will improve from them.
She now works as a swim coach, lawyer, and teacher with special needs of all kinds.
She set a great example for the Paralympics and disabled people. David Lee Pearson is a great Paralympian star.
He was an equestrian who was born with joint stiffness, or known as very limited movement.
He is also known as the most successful athlete from Great Britain.
He has a total of 6 world championships and 3 European titles.
When he was a little boy, his parents bought him a donkey due to his legs being enclosed in plastic from hips to heel. He couldn't pedal his bike with friends, so his donkey was the alternative.
When he was born, The nurses were terrified to tell his mother that he had a disability.
Living with a condition that prevents you from fully extending your joints, making it harder to walk, no less than to ride a horse. He extremely helped the next generation for gay disabled athletes.
It's tougher to go a normal life if you've got a disability, and to add a sport on top of it, that's quite an achievement. Natalia Partyko was the world's youngest Polish table tennis player to play in the Paralympics.
She was only 11. She was born without her right hand and forearm.
Besides just competing in the Paralympics, she also went on to be the first table tennis player to compete in both Olympics and Paralympics.
It was a long journey for her as she started playing table tennis at the age of 7. Through her years, she won 8 medals, including 5 gold, 2 silver, and 1 bronze. Her parents played a huge part in helping her. She says that they helped her to become who she is today.
The Paralympics takes place every 2 years, and they consist of 28 sports. 22 of them are summer and 6 of them are winter. The summer sports include
archery, athletic, bocce, canoeing, cycling, equestrian, goalball, judo, powerlifting, rowing, shooting parasport, sitting volleyball, swimming, table tennis, taekwondo, triathlon, wheelchair basketball, wheelchair fencing, wheelchair rugby, and wheelchair tennis.
The winter sports include
alpine skiing, biathlon, cross-country skiing, para-ice hockey, snowboarding, and wheelchair curling.
The Paralympic welcomes all kinds of different disabilities. They are categorized by
impaired muscle power, impaired range of movement, limb deficiency, leg length difference, short-statured, hypertonia, poor muscle coordination, cerebral palsy, vision impairment, and intellectual disabilities. Maya Herzig suffers from albinism, which is basically a genetic disorder causing loss of pigment in the skin, hair, and eyes. She is considered legally blind, but she still overcomes her disability to be the best gymnast she could be. Maya, how do people treat you because you have albinism?
Some people treat me differently, and some people treat me like I belong.
What is the hardest part of having albinism?
I'm not like normal kids, like if they want to run outside and play, but I have to always put sunscreen on and wear a hat. And sometimes asking the teacher to move up if I have to sit in the back is a little embarrassing because people will make fun of me.
What is the hardest thing at gymnastics for you to do because of your sight?
The hardest part is going on the beam because the beam is so tiny.
Who is your biggest inspiration?
Suni Lee, I love watching her in the Summer Olympics.
Brenna Heckeby was so thankful to be able to answer some of our questions. Brenna is a Paralympic gold medalist and influencer who has a missing leg due to having cancer as a child. Before she had to get her leg amputated, she was a gymnast, but soon after she found her love for snowboarding.
What was the biggest challenge you were faced with to get to this point?
I think there have been many different challenges, from accessibility to access to prosthetic equipment to being shut out from competition because of the severity of my leg impairment. Unfortunately, as disabled athletes, we are met with more barriers to competition, more physical demand and load on our bodies, and constant advocacy for our right to compete. Despite these challenges, adaptive athletes have been able to break limits on what is possible through sports, and that's truly amazing.
If the Paralympics weren't here, what would you be doing?
I would probably be working in the medical field. Before I found snowboarding, I was hoping to pursue a career as a doctor. In high school, I attended medical school camps that basically showed high-achieving students what being a doctor would be like. It's funny though, because looking at my life now, I couldn't imagine myself as a doctor.
The Paralympics is a frontier that not many people realize.
It changed the way of life and the possibilities for many disabled athletes.
This also helped not only athletes, but also it gave many other people an open mind about disabled people.
The Paralympics made others realize how capable people with disabilities truly are. It gave people a great understanding about many disabilities and the effects exercise has on it.
So don't take your sports for granted, because what would you do without it?